Hello guys, Jan here. This is like the final stage or the final video about the 6 kinds of education. So I hope you're excited and I'm really happy that you were able to watch the entire video and the details of how I understand it and how I apply it in my life. So today we're going to discuss financial education and it's one it you know again, all of the 6 kinds of education is important, but financial education is something that we all have to learn. I would like to believe that we all have to learn this because in our life we need to manage our finances. We have earnings, and then we also spend, and this is something that's non-negotiable because it's part of our lives. Okay, that's one of the reasons why we work. It's not the only reason why we work. That's just one of the reasons why we work. And then that's also one of the reasons why we are still living, because we were able to transact money with, in exchange of the goods that we are receiving, like food, water, shelter, and all of that. Okay? So I'm gonna share what financial education is. From the word financial education, it's basically equipping ourselves with how we should be with our finances. And there are a lot of things, right? But today it's really more about personal finances, because the business finance is quite complex, I would like to believe. I kind of understand business finance, but today it's more about personal finance, because this is one of the things that a lot of people are struggling with. I am not saying that I am not struggling with finances, because everyone is struggling with finances. We all have big problems with finances, or we may have small problems. It depends. The point is we have challenges when it comes to finances. Okay, 3 things that I want to share under financial education. Number 1, I got this lesson from Robert Kiyosaki. He said that our house is not an asset. Again, our house is not an asset. What do we mean by that? Usually, especially if we are Filipinos, we have a dream ever since we were a kid, ever since we were young, and then we eventually start to work. We have a mindset that I need to have a house. And that is true. Why? Because it is one of the most stable or secure or an achievement that we have. When we have it, it's really good, and then we know for a fact that we have a family and we have a shelter, we have a roof on top of our head, and we are secure about our shelter, right? But we also need to understand that our house is not an asset. In terms of financial, in terms of convenience, yes, I would like to believe that it is an asset. Why? Because we are living in a house, we are not paying rent anymore, and then we are comfortable in the house, okay? But in terms of finances, it's not really an asset, okay? So why is that? Because when we start to live in the house, we have to maintain the house. For example, if there are we also pay electric bills, right? We also pay water bills. And then if there are damages in the house because of a storm, or because of bad weather, or because of our kids were running around and then it hit the wall and then boom, it's normal. Or when we invite visitors and then something happens. So we also have to maintain the house. Maintenance, ladies and gentlemen, just like any maintenance, has a cost. So it depends, right? We have electricity, water, maintenance, repainting, adding more furniture, add more decoration, removing the decoration, and all of that. It all requires finances. And then our house is an asset in terms of convenience, but in terms of finances, we are putting out money. Okay? We're putting out money in order for us to live. Okay? That's the number 1 lesson. And then number 2 is kind of connected to number 1, which is the difference between an asset and liability. Simply put, or in simple words, according to Robert Kiyosaki, again in his book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all his talks, he mentioned that the simplest definition of an asset versus liability is that an asset is putting money into our pocket. Again, asset is putting money inside our pocket. However, liability, on the other hand, is putting money out. It's putting money out of our pocket. Okay? So it's a connection to number one. Our house is not an asset. Why? Because we keep on putting out money, putting out money in order for us to maintain the house. Again, in terms of convenience, it is good. In terms of finances, we have to maintain it. Hence, it is somehow a liability. A house can be an asset if you're going to have it rented out to other people. Okay? For example, if I'm going to buy a house, and this is one of the things that my brother's doing, or like a lot of people are doing, like Grant Cardone is one of them, Robert Kiyosaki is one of them, and a lot of people like real estate, like they buy condominium units, or they buy like office spaces, or they're going to buy like residence house, and then they're going to have it rented by people. So it's like they are the ones who are paying for the house, and then that makes your house an asset. Why? Because it is putting money into your pocket, not out of your pocket. Okay? So number one and number two is quite similar. Our house is not an asset. Number two is the difference between asset versus liability. Okay? Number three, which is, I think it's very, 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 very simple, but a lot of us are having a hard time applying it in our lives, because this includes like self-discipline. This is what we call like the income minus savings equals expense. What we have in our lives is usually income minus expenses equals savings. So for example, if I'm earning 10,000 pesos in a month, for example, just putting out a number out there, and then I'm going to spend like 8,000 pesos or 9,000 or even the entire 10,000 pesos because of my cost of living, then I only have a savings of what? Nothing. It's like, for example, if it's 7,000, I have 3,000 savings. What usually happens is, we know if that's the formula that we have in our mind, like income minus expense equals savings, what usually happens is we're going to find ways to spend all the income that we have because we are not prioritizing the savings that we should be focusing on. Okay? So that's the reason why when we increase our salary, or when we got an increase, like for example 5,000 pesos, so congratulations, that's a good increase. From 10,000 you are now earning 15,000. You still wonder why am I not having, like, why am I still struggling? Why don't I have savings? It's because when we have that formula in our head, we find ways to spend the money instead of saving the money. We create reasons like we need a better phone because our phone is broken. We need a better car because our car is 2 years old. For example. So we create reasons in our head to spend the money that we earn, even if our income is growing. So if we're going to change that from income minus expense equals savings, we're going to change that to income minus savings equals expense. The more income we have, the first priority in our heads is the savings. So when we have that in our mindset, we eventually increase our savings. This is like what you are paying yourself first, and then you spend what is left after that equation. So the good thing about that is we are confident that what we are spending, we already have something that we have in store for ourselves in the future. Jan, what are we going to do with our savings? The more savings you have, the more buffer you have, and then the more buffer you have, you can play around with your money. You can invest in a mutual fund. You can invest in the stock market, and eventually, if you're going to grow that savings, you can also start building a small business, and then eventually it will grow and it will grow and it will grow. This is where people start. This is where people are trying or doing their best in order for them to start, at least to start. It is a habit. It is difficult to do, especially if you have a family that you are supporting. But I would like to believe that it is really important for us to change our mindset. We need to prioritize savings first instead of expenses, okay? And even in business, it applies in the business, you know? Like when we have income, we don't think about spending all the income. We think about putting it back, reinvesting it back to the business. Why? So that we can grow the business. We have more potential earnings. Hence, we have more potential reinvesting. And then eventually, we're going to have more buffer. And then we have more to give. Okay? So those are the three things that I got, like financial education. And this, again, that's our house isn't an asset. It depends on the situation. But if you are living in a house that you bought, it is a liability. In terms of finances, again, we're talking about finances. Number two is that the difference between an asset versus liability. Asset puts money into our pocket, while liability puts money out of our pocket. Number three is the formula income minus savings equals expense. Is the right one? It is not. Income minus expense equals savings. Okay, guys, so again, those are the things, those are the three things that we need to understand about financial education. I mean, there are a lot of things that we can still learn about it. There are a lot of books about, you know, finances, so we can learn more about it. But at least you know what I learned. And then at least you know that what I'm trying to do is also to manage myself well in terms of finances. So I hope this video adds value to you. And this has been a really good ride, the 6 kinds of education. And, you know, I'm just happy that I was able to share this to people. So if you find this really helpful, just click the like button. If your thoughts, comment them down. Share this to the people that you think should listen to this, especially to those people who are struggling in terms of managing their finances. Maybe they just don't know what the right formula is. And then subscribe to this channel if you want to know more about the lessons that I'm going to share. And, you know, it's not really like a lesson. I'm just like trying to share my own thoughts and documenting my day, or like documenting whatever it is that's struck me, okay? So that's me. That's Jan. Thank you, logging out, and thank you for watching this video. Do those 4 things: like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you, guys.